Hola, it's Rene. This time we are going to talk about the D7 because during these 2 years, a lot of things changed. Today I'm with Marina, as the very experienced lawyer at immigration. So she will talk about the D7 visa.
Thank you very much, Renee. It's a pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Marina. I'm the team leader in the immigration department at Lexity. I'm a lawyer here in Portugal.
So what is the basic requirement for applying for the D7 visa and how long will it take?
So the requirements for the D7 visa, of course, we are more than happy to assist with the requirements that is necessary to do here in Portugal. So the tax ID number, the bank account. We can assist also with the proof of accommodation here in Portugal, which is one of the requirements. But basically, for the D7 application itself, it's necessary for the main applicant to have passive income, which can be dividends, investments, assets, rental income, pensions. Of course, you can analyze each income to verify if it's passive or not. But basically, if the main applicant holds passive income and will continue to receive and can show the periodical receive of this income, they could qualify for the D7 application. Regarding timeline, it will depend a lot where we are applying from, because this visa we need to apply at the country of legal residency of the applicant. So we will submit the documents with the VFS Global Office, as I know many of countries have, or Portuguese consulates directly. So it will depend where we are applying from to know more or less the timeline. But after we submit the documentation, is approximately 90 days for the consulate to analyze the documents and approve the visa.
So what is the procedure if the client wants to start?
The procedure is to contact us. We will draft initially a power of attorney to represent them before the tax authorities and the Portuguese banks. So we are able to do these two steps that I've mentioned initially, which are the tax ID number and the bank account. We can represent the client before the tax authorities and the banks, so they don't need to come to Portugal to start the process. So this would be the first step, and then we will start the procedure of scheduling the appointment at the immigration office at the country of legal residency, which can be the consulate or the VFS office or RBLS, depends on the country.
So will they need to send the documents to the embassy themselves, or they send documents to you and you do the process?
No, the documents and the applicants, they need to be present at the appointment date at the consulate or the VFS office. They need to present the documents to them. They will not be sending the documents to us physically, but they can send the documents to us so we can verify if everything is according to the requirements. But they will be present at the appointment to present the documentation.
All right. Can a client work with D7 before they get the residence card?
So they can work in Portugal. They can work even if they are holder of a D7 visa, but it's important for them to be registered with the tax authorities if they are freelancers, for example, and they need to be compliant with the social security obligations as well. But we recommend them to work only after they receive the residence permit here in Portugal. But imagine if they are employees of a foreign company and they come to Portugal under a D7 visa, they can continue to work for that company. They don't need to stop. But for working for a Portuguese company or working for a foreign company after they are in Portugal with a D7 visa, if they are starting the job now, we recommend them to wait until they receive the residence permit, so they are compliant with the tax and social security obligations.
So do you suggest that family members apply the visa at the same time or after the main applicants get the residence card?
In the past, it was necessary to wait. So the main applicant needed to apply. They come to Portugal and then the family can do the family reunification. But right now this changed. So they can all apply as family members. Of course, they need to prove their connection, so with a marriage certificate or with a birth certificate if it's a child application. But they all can apply at the same time at the Portuguese consulate, considering that the main applicant receives the threshold necessary to support their family members here in Portugal. So the amount that they need to present will increase a little bit if they are applying with family members.
So let me say like how long the marriage?
They can get married yesterday and apply together today. Yeah. If they are not married, we can still apply as family members, as partners, but they need to prove their relationship for more than 2 years. But if they are married, a marriage certificate is sufficient to prove their connection in their relationship, so they can apply right away.
Okay. So for the D7 renewal, what documents do they need to provide?
So for the renewal is processed directly here in Portugal with the immigration authorities, but it's not anymore with IMA, with the Agency of Integration, Migration and Asylum. The renewals are being processed by the civil registry here in Portugal. We need to schedule an appointment for them, and they need to present the documentation that they still receive not passive income, but a source of income. So when they come to Portugal, and if they continue or not to receive the passive income, when they are renewing, they need to prove that they still have a source of income, and they declared their tax returns here in Portugal. They complied with the tax and social security obligations when applicable, and they can present the documentation to the civil registry for the renewal.
Okay, so which means they don't need to show the passive income documents, like if they get it from the rental or any other
Not
thing.
anymore, but they need to present a source of income. So if they start working for as a freelancer here in Portugal, they will need to be registered with the tax authorities and with the social security. And they will comply within, because the first residence permit is issued for 2 years. Within these 2 years, they will have 2 tax returns to present. So by the time of the renewal, they will present these tax returns. And they don't necessarily need still to carry passive income. They can have active income now for the renewal.
Which day does the date start to count? Because some people say like, oh, the first day for counting the 5 year is on the residence card. Some people say like, no, it's for the day you send in the application documents.
Yeah, actually the law changed recently. The nationality law changed, considering they will count the starting point since, and the law says, application date. But the law is not yet regulated, so we know when will be the application date. Because the application date can be when they submitted the documents at the consulate, it can be when they have the visa, or it can be when they went to the SEF at the time and paid the fees of the residence permit, or it can be when they receive the residence permit, so the issuance date of the residence permit. So we have many possibilities of starting points, and we don't know yet when will be the actual starting point, the civil registry. We don't know yet the regulation considering the starting point, but we hope for visa holders will be when they receive the visa. This is because lots of times the person has a visa already, but when they come to Portugal, it's difficult to schedule the appointment with the immigration authority here. We know how bureaucratic it is. And it wouldn't make sense for them to not count the time that they were here, but waiting for their appointment because of the immigration authorities' delays. So we hope that will be when the visa is issued.
So for how many days a client need to stay in Portugal for the first
for the first renewal. So the time is calculated regarding the Portuguese residence permit time. As the first residence permit is valid for 24 months, 2 years, they cannot be absent of Portugal for more than 6 months in a row or 8 months combined in a 2-year period. So this translates more or less to 16 months every in the first 2 years.
And how about the third and fourth year?
The same. So the second residence permit is issued for 36 months, and the same timeline applies. So they cannot be absent of Portugal for more than 6 months in a row or 8 months combined.
So during this time, during the first 2 years, the client works and need to do a lot of business trips. So does those business trips days count?
So if they need to travel, or if they have any family issues or health issues, or if they have the business travels, we can always submit to the immigration authority a reason for them to be outside of Portugal for more than the required time. But it will always be under their review, and it's discretionary. They will, it's not a procedure that they will approve or not. They will analyze when we are renewing the permit, verifying if the person complies with the minimum amount required in Portugal. But to be on the safe side, we always recommend to submit a reason and a justification to the immigration authorities why they need to be absent. Then it will be easier for them to approve and accept the renewal, because we justified in the past why the person was not here in Portugal all the time.
Any client did that?
I did that for some clients, and yes, when they are renewing the permit, sometimes the immigration authority, they ask, okay, I see in your passport that you have some stamps, that you were not in Portugal all the time, and then we have proved the communication that we sent to the immigration authorities, that the client was required for business reasons. So we can justify to, and the communication was old. It wasn't something that we did at the last minute. It was something that we thought about, we communicated with the immigration authority, and then they approved the renewal.
So how about if they work as a pilot or cabin crew in Portugal?
Yeah, it's a fine line there regarding this, but we can always justify to the immigration authority, but again, it's not something that we can, unfortunately, it's not something that we can guarantee. It's something that we can do the best possible for the client not to face any problems when they are renewing. But it's not something that we can guarantee that they will not have any problems on the renewal.
So just better avoid it, right?
Better to avoid, yes, definitely.
Okay. There's a saying like people who stayed here and after 5 years they apply for the permit, they need to have a connection with the community. So what is that about?
So after 5 years, you will need to have the language requirement for the citizenship application. And for the permanent residency application, you need to prove the language requirement. So this is the strongest connection with Portugal.
All right, because some saying like you need to join some local community or organizations.
No, not so much, unless you don't want to. But if you want to join, of course you are welcome to. But it's not a requirement for the citizenship application.
All right. After 5 years, do they need to present all the documents again for the passport?
So for the citizenship application, they will need to present their past residence permits, a valid residence permit, so when they are applying they need a valid residence permit as well, passport, criminal records from all the countries that they resided after they were 18 years old, and the A2 level certificate. Of course, you can prepare the forms, submit the requirements to the civil registry who will analyze, but they don't need to present all documents or any proof of income. They don't need to present the documents that they presented for the D7 in the past. The documents now are more in a way to verify if they comply with the citizenship requirements. So criminal records, A2 level certificate, the past residence permits.
The criminal record is the Portugal criminal record or their original?
They're original. So if they were born in a country and then they moved to Portugal, they will need to present the where they were born, the first criminal record. In Portugal, the civil registry, they will check the criminal record internally. So it's not necessary for us to present because they have, when we sign the forms, we give the civil registry power to check the Portuguese criminal record.
So does the kid need to pay for the school fee in Portugal?
So the kid can, after they come to Portugal and have a residence permit, the kid can benefit from public schools. Of course, the slots are limited for that, but they can try to benefit from that. If they don't have the residence permit yet, they can still study here in Portugal, considering they are paying private schools. But the public ones, they can benefit after they have the residence permit.
Because now a lot of people's residence card is expired.
Mm-hmm.
So can they leave Portugal and come back again?
We never recommend that for them to leave without expired residence permit. Although Portugal, since COVID, they are issuing law decrees that extends the visas and documents from 6 months to 6 months onwards or for a year. We don't recommend them to travel with an expired residence permit because other EU Schengen countries, they don't have the obligation to accept the expired residence permit. And the person documentation, visas and documents, even expired, are only valid here in Portugal, not in other European or Schengen countries. So we don't recommend them to travel with an expired permit.
So if their passport don't need a visa to come in EU, then can they do it?
If the passport, if their citizenship doesn't require the Schengen visa to come, they can come if they have a valid residence permit in Portugal, but we don't recommend them to come if their residence permit is expired.
Because because it might be they have some issue they need to leave for maybe 1 or 2 months and then come back, but by then they expired, but with their own passport they can come in without any visa. So how will the date count?
Yeah, so we if they are they will be coming as tourists, right? Not as residents, because they're technically speaking their residence permit is already expired. They are not considered residents anymore, so to say, because it's expired. But we recommend them to be in Portugal when the permit expires, so we are able to do the renewal process here, and they don't face any problems with the entering or leaving the Schengen space. But if they absolutely need to leave, we recommend them always to come back to the Schengen space through Portugal. So they come, they leave their country and come to the Schengen space, entering the border control in Portugal. Here we can help them to justify why their residence permit is expired. Of course, immigration authorities at the border control, they are familiar with the delays, so it's easier to justify.
Hello, I'm Joana Mello. I'm a tax lawyer and head of the Portuguese tax department.
So what is about the new NHR 2.0?
So the NHR 2.0, which actually the name, the formal name in Portugal is IFICI, and in English they are calling the TIRSI, which is a tax scheme for scientific innovation and research. is the new regime that was approved by the government after the old NHR has ended. The benefits are even better than the old NHR, but the problem is that the requirements to get into the regime are more restricted and then harder to get in. But the benefit itself, so the individual must transfer the tax residency to Portugal, so become a Portuguese tax resident. Same as the old NHR, the individual cannot have been a tax resident in Portugal for the last 5 years. The new NHR also, it's for 10 years. The benefits itself for Portuguese source income regarding employment and self-employment income, they will be subject to the flat rate of 20%, which is a reduced rate instead of the progressive rates, which could reach up to 50%. For the foreign income, almost all types of foreign income would be exempt. The only income that would not be exempt would be the pensions. So dividends, interest, salaries, profits, rents, royalties, everything would be exempt. Capital gains even will be exempt. Only pensions that will not be. And differently from the NHR, to exempt the foreign income, we don't need to analyze the tax treaty, because the old NHR, you have some requirement, as we would only exempt here if the other country could tax or effectively tax. Now this does not exist in the new regime. So the benefits are better. And as I was saying, the main difference is how to get into the regime. And how you get is you have different options, but mainly the individual who became a Portuguese tax resident will need to work for a Portuguese company as an employee or even as a freelancer. And you have several options. For example, working for a Portuguese startup, certified as a startup in Portugal, teaching in higher education system like university professors, and having some qualified jobs in some types of Portuguese company recognized by the government by being relevant for the national economy, and then they need some certain types of certifications from the Portuguese agencies called IAPME and ICEP, or some qualified jobs in some types again of Portuguese company in some sectors. So it's not simply moving to Portugal. It's not even simpler as moving and working for a Portuguese company. You need to move, work for a Portuguese company, having a specific activity in some cases, and you also have these requirements for the company itself to be certified as a startup or being certified as IAPME or ICEP and other options. Since there are several options, it's difficult to list, even because each of the options then have its own requirements. You even request the new NHR to different agencies, authorities, not directly to the tax authorities. So each one of the options have different procedures. And of course, we'll be happy to share with you all the lists, written with all the requirements and etc. Regarding bureaucracy, the person who becomes a tax resident, they need to apply for the regime until January 15 of the following year. So someone who arrives in 2025 applies until January 15. And for some cases, it's not only applying, the company itself that the individual works for needs also in their portal with the tax authorities to confirm that this employee in fact has that specific activity. So the regime is good because attract actually people to Portugal, differently from the old NHR that people just came to Portugal but continue to work for companies outside. Now they need to work for Portuguese companies. It's true that way more restricted. Less people will definitely apply because it's harder. But once you get in, the benefits are even better than the NHR.
So can they start up their own business rather than working for a company?
They can start their own business, so they can open their own company, and provide that this company meets one of these requirements. Let's take the startup, for example. They open the company, they start the certification process before Startup Portugal, which is the name of the authorities. And being the owner and the general director of the company, they can get into the regime. Okay, so yes, they can do that by having their own company.
If you have any question about D7 Visa, please leave a message or email me. If you like my video, please subscribe and share with your friends. Hope to see you in Portugal.